All right, everybody. The dust is settled. Hopefully, most of you have calmed down by this point. The NBA draft lottery was last night. The New Orleans Pelicans, not the New York Knicks, ended up with the number 1 overall selection, followed by the Memphis Grizzlies at number 2, with the Knicks landing in at number 3. Everybody is so upset by this, going crazy. I thought people were going to jump off bridges last night with the idea that we're not getting Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson to the NBA is a huge deal. He's a big marketing opportunity. He's a big personality, ton of talent. He's going to make a lot of money. He's going to sell a lot of sneakers for Nike or Adidas or Reebok, whoever he signs with. But I think that has really clouded the fans' judgment of Zion Williamson. Because going into this year, Zion Williamson was not the number 1 player. R.J. Barrett was. Zion was 4 or 5 because the main concern with him was, well, his size. He's only 6'6", 6'7". He's a little hefty. So is he going to hold up over time? And I think those are all fair criticisms of Zion. So after the year that he had at Duke, which was phenomenal, and all the highlights and all the media attention that this guy's getting, every fan wanted Zion because they were convinced that he is the second coming of LeBron James. He's going to rescue the Knicks. The veteran players like Durant and Kyrie are going to want to come play with this kid because he's such a transcending talent. This all may well be true down the road, but as of today, it's not. Because Zion Williamson has not played 1 minute in the NBA. He has not become an NBA All-Star yet. He has not become an NBA superstar yet. He's not won an MVP. He's not made the playoffs. He's not won a Finals MVP. He had a nice season at Duke where they didn't even win the championship, but he showed that obviously he has a ton of talent. And what makes him so interesting is you don't see a guy at his weight and size with that type of athletic ability and how nimble he is on his feet. It is a spectacle to watch. It's interesting to watch. You can't take your eyes off of it. I'll be the first one to admit. Every Duke game, which was every single one of them, on TV, I watched because I want to see what this kid was going to do. And I came away impressed with him. I like Zion. The problem I have with Zion is the amount of attention and hype that he is getting. How is he going to live up to this? He's coming into this league with so much pressure, such a bullseye on his back from the other players, that it's going to be very hard to live up to that. And in terms of the New York Knicks, when you put that type of pressure on a kid in New York, it might not be a very good situation. So I'm not here to tell you that Zion Williamson is not going to be a great player. I'm not here to tell you that he's not going to be a superstar type of player. I am here to tell you, though, that he is not a lock for all those things like everybody's making him out to be. He's not Charles Barkley yet. He is Zion Williamson at this point. Remains to be seen what he's going to do. I'll get into Zion and the pros and cons of his game in a little bit, but the most important thing that I want to talk about right now is where this leaves the New York Knicks, because last night at 8:30, everybody was amped up, excited. Here we go. By 9 o'clock, everybody was depressed. Same old Knicks. The world is over. Forget next season. That is foolish thinking. And I'm the first one here to tell you that this might be a blessing in disguise for the New York Knicks organization, falling to number 3. And it's not because I don't like Zion. It's because I like R.J. Barrett more than Zion. I like R.J. Barrett more than John Morant. I like R.J. Barrett more than Kobe White and DeAndre Hunter and Jarrett Culver and all the other guys in the draft that, are top 10 picks. When I look at R.J. Barrett, I see a kid who, number one right now, Evan Roberts brought this up on WFAN today. He's got a chip on his shoulder now. Everybody looks at him like Robin to Zion's Batman. That's not fair. This kid came in as the best player. Preseason, he was the number 1 pick, no question. The kid's been a star his whole life, and then all of a sudden he ends up at Duke. Zion is a huge, huge talent, And the way that his game plays, it draws eyes. So everybody is worried about Zion and R.J. Barrett, who put up great numbers and was just as responsible for Duke being good as Zion was. Kind of overlooked right now. And now instead of being the number 1 overall pick, he's going to be the 2nd or 3rd overall pick. So I'll get into that also in a second because we might not even have R.J. Barrett in our laps because the Memphis Grizzlies could very easily take R.J. Barrett. But why do I like R.J. Barrett more than Zion? I think his game translates to the NBA much better. He's 6'7". He's lefty. He can handle the ball. He averaged 4.3 assists at Duke last year, so he could pass the ball. He averaged nearly 8 rebounds a game, which Zion averaged basically only a little bit more than that. He could rebound the ball. He could shoot the ball. He shot almost 46% last year from the field at Duke, and he averaged nearly 23 points. Identical numbers to Zion, except he averaged more assists, and Zion averaged a couple more rebounds. Everything else was nearly the same, and obviously Zion shot a much higher percentage from the floor, but that's granted considering Zion's game and Barrett's game. But the way the NBA is right now, with the spread the floor, very guard-dominated league, you need to be able to shoot the ball. R.J. Barrett makes sense. R.J. Barrett reminds me of James Harden. He's not overly athletic, but he's athletic enough. He's not the strongest human being in the world, but he's strong with the ball. He takes the ball into the lane, he draws contact, he gets fouled. Now, he needs to work on his foul shooting, granted, but he has the type of game that could really do well in the NBA. And when looking at the Knicks roster right now, with Mitchell Robinson, Knox, Frank, Dotson, our big problem is basically the two-guard position. We don't have really a two-guard. And now, looking into the offseason, if we do sign Kevin Durant and a Kyrie Irving, we still need a two-guard. Zion might have got a little muddled. Now, again, that's a problem I would like to have dealt with, knowing that I have Kevin Durant on the team with Mitchell Robinson still there and figuring out how to play Zion. But Zion's game at the NBA, he has to be a power forward. He's not a 3. He's not a 2, obviously. He's a little too small to be a center. So he's really a power forward. He's not going to be a great shooter right off the gate. He might get better at it. But his shot is going to be problematic for him from range. So he's going to play in the paint. And that bully ball style of play that he has. And he's going to try and out-muscle guys and out-jump them. And you know what? The NBA doesn't really have guys like that anymore. They don't value guys like that anymore. It could probably work, but the fact that his jump shot is going to be a problem, and my main concern with Zion is actually getting his shot off, because for his 50-inch vertical or whatever he has, he does not get a ton of elevation on his jump shot. So I think getting his shot off is going to be a main problem at the NBA level with the position that he's going to have to play and the style of game that he plays. Whereas Barrett is a perimeter player. His game, he doesn't have to change a thing about his game to translate to the NBA. He's just got to come in, work, and do what he does. And I think he's a great fit. 6'7", 210 pounds, good build, the pedigree, jump shot, the fact that he's lefty, it's kind of awkward. Again, James Harden, he reminds me so much of James Harden, not just because he's lefty, because of that silky smooth game where it doesn't quite look like he's going full speed, but all of a sudden he's by you. And it doesn't quite look like, hey, is he that strong? Meanwhile, he's muscling it up and finishing an N1 situation. And the fact that he's already shown an ability to pass, he's already shown the ability to share the spotlight with, Cam Reddish was a superstar too coming in, and Zion Williamson obviously. Share the spotlight on that team, distribute the ball, and he really, really impressed me. So I think R.J. Barrett, in terms of the next level, he's not more talented than Zion pound for pound, but I think his game translates better, and he has more than enough talent to make up for that. So I honestly, by mid-next season, I think we're going to be happy that R.J. Barrett fell to us and we didn't get the number 1 pick and be forced to take Zion. When you compare the two mid-season, I think in 5 years from now, it's going to be very clear who the best player in this draft was. And that's going to be R.J. Barrett, in my opinion. Obviously, we have the 3rd pick, not the 2nd pick. So we're going to have to take whoever the Grizzlies or Pelicans, obviously they could go a different direction also. I doubt it, but who knows. The Grizzlies have Mike Conley. The Grizzlies might not want to take Ja Morant. I think that they will, because I think the consensus is that he's the second best player in the draft. Something I disagree with also. Ja Morant, to me, is a nice story. He's a good-looking prospect. But the fact that he plays point guard elevates him. The fact that he had some flashy dunks elevates him. When I watched Ja Morant, which I watched him about 6 or 7 times last year, and obviously clips from the computer, and tried to get a feel for him, I do not see an explosive athlete with him. I do not see overwhelming quickness. I really don't. Now, I know he's thrown down some dunks and his vertical's nice. I'm talking about pure quickness, which obviously at the point guard position, penetrating and getting into the paint, kicking the ball, finishing at the rim. I think he can finish at the rim. He's shown, obviously, he could elevate. Strength-wise might be a problem for him, but he's going to be able to probably finish at the rim. The problem is, I don't know if he's going to be able to get into the paint and get to the rim the way everyone thinks he is. I just don't see the foot speed. I don't see the lateral quickness that I want from an elite point guard. If I'm taking him number 2 overall in the draft, I want an elite player. I don't see that with him. And I think that's part of the reason why he ended up at Murray State. He did get an offer from South Carolina, granted. No other big school wanted him. Because I think when you watch him, he has really a game that it's kind of almost slow. And he's a little methodical with the ball. And that is good, and you could definitely play like that. Chris Paul plays like that. Chris Paul's an all-time player, though. Other guys who play like that, I don't know how well it's going to translate. And again, the NBA's changed. The NBA is a much quicker pace. There's a ton of good point guards. So I think Ja Morant is going to struggle defensively because he lacks that lateral quickness. And I think that offensively, he's going to be a solid player, but he's really going to be more of an assist guy, which there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I see Ja Morant's game mirroring like a Ricky Rubio type. 12 points, 9 assists, hit a couple threes. I do not see him in the Russell Westbrook category. I do not see him as one of those big-time guys because I think his athleticism is going to be exposed at the next level. I really believe that. Not saying I hate him. Not saying if the Knicks end up with him, I'm not going to be excited and root for the best. I just don't see that huge upside that everyone else is seeing. Could be wrong, but I've seen, again, 6-7 games is not a huge sample, but he did not pop to me. And when he played Florida State and they got knocked out, you really saw Florida State has some serious athletes on that squad. He got off to a hot start in that game, but really kind of had a hard time the whole time. And I think that's what you're going to see at the NBA. So in terms of immediate kind of guys stepping in, I think Ja Morant's going to take a while to really find his footing in the NBA because he's going to have to play a different game than he's used to. And I think he could be a good player. I don't think he's going to be an all-star caliber player. I think, again, a Ricky Rubio type, a Darren Collison type of guy, a Jeff Teague type of player. I mean, I really think that's what his ceiling is, which, again, at number 2 overall is just not good enough for me personally. So I'm hoping the Grizzlies take him, and I'm hoping R.J. Barrett falls to us at number 3. Again, I think that would be the best-case scenario. And I'm actually happy we didn't get the number 1 pick or the number 2 pick because I think we'd be very tempted to take Zion, number 1, which you kind of have to at this point. And I think we'd be tempted to take Ja Morant also.